Welcome to the French Connections Saturday edition. Today's date is the 3rd day of April 2010. Of course, my name is Darrell Bradford Smith. Great to have you here for another important broadcast of the French Connection. Been following some very important stories over the last few months with many guests, including Mohamed Rafik, who I'm going to bring up in a minute. We've been looking at the Treasury auctions and how nobody signed up for them, and problems with them financing their future debt. And it's a debacle that is just coming to light now in the mainstream press. We were on this actually a year ago. We knew this was coming. We described its whole process to you during that time. But during that time, we were also making mention in almost every program about the gold markets and how they were manipulated. And we were one of the first people to bring you information on tungsten bars. We also brought you information about the ETFs being oversold. I remember discussing with Mohammed the fact that I was going to the ETF website and their core holdings were remaining constant, but they had doubled their sales. I couldn't understand how that would go on, but in fact now the disparity between what they claim they hold and what they're selling is even worse than twice. But I think that's only the tip of the iceberg in the ETF market. But new information has come out recently on the London Bullion Market Association's website, and that they're in big trouble with the ratios of gold being held in the spot market in London and what they're actually selling. And what I described to you last time was that people have been selling the same piece of gold to a multiple of people and giving them certificates for it. So in other words, it's like if you bought a car and then showed up to pick it up and 100 other people had titles to the car that you're buying. And you're all standing there saying, well, which one of us own it, and nobody pointing the finger at the guy that sold it to you, or at least not yet, and the mainstream media isn't. The job that has been done by the GATA people on this is extraordinary. I did an interview about 3 years ago or more even with Bill Murphy, one of the co-founders of GATA. He has been claiming these problems and anomalies have existed for some time and trying to bring people's attention to it, and he's been called a nut and poo-pooed, and he's been attacked, and I mean it's been, well, the due diligence that he did in the first instance and his tenaciousness of the group that he works with, and they're all very high quality professionals, good moral character, and they've worked hard, and finally we had some confirmation in the past week. And I have been able today for you on the French Connection to get Bill Murphy back on the line, and we're going to do a three-way call with Mohamed Rafik, myself, and Bill Murphy, and I'm going to bring them up right now. Bill, are you with me?
Yes, I am. Good to be here.
I'm very glad you're here, Bill. We're going to bring up Mohamed immediately as well. Mohamed, are you here?
I am indeed. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Well, Mohamed, it's great to have you back as well. Listen, the recent information and news reports that are coming on the alternative press, interesting that the mainstream press has stayed away from this, like the plague, has been very clear that this crime wave has existed for some time, that the big bullion banks, the trading banks, JP Morgan Chase and HSBC over in London as principals, have been fudging their spot market numbers and selling as many as 100 times the same amount of gold. You want to get involved, Bill, and tell us how this all came to pass and exactly what those ratios are and what crime has been committed here?
Well, I recently spoke March 25th at a CFTC hearing on precious metals about the position limits and about the markets in general. And somehow I got on a docket with 15 other people that were testifying in front of the CFTC, which was televised webcast. Of course, the only one whose feed went down during the webcast was mine.
Well, as one might expect, though, Bill,
Yeah, it came up right afterwards, but when everybody was watching, they didn't see it. But what we're talking about here in this instance was that one of our guys, Adrian Douglas, on the board of directors, has been talking for years about the volume in the LBMA and versus the amount of gold they have, and to him, he thought that it was almost 50 times oversubscribed, and I was very leery of this. I said, Adrian, if this isn't true, the bullion dealers are going to bury us. So what happened was, during the hearings, we had another supporter there named Harvey Organ, and Adrian Douglas was there to back him up on some things, and was able to get this question or his statement during the question and answer period about this sort of a thing, but he was sort of a little bit vague, but he mentioned just what you were talking about, and then one of our big critics, Jeff Christian of the CPM group, who's always on our case, didn't realize that Aiding was a Gada guy, and he piped up to the chairman and said that that previous speaker was exactly right, except it's 100 times greater than what they had, meaning that there's 100 times more promises for the same amount of gold, and we almost fell off our chair because he made our case. I mean, he's a bullion a guy, consults people all over the world on this, and he gave us instant credibility and blew this thing wide open. So it became a feature revelation from the CFTC hearings. Although, as well as catching that fire over the internet like crazy because of a whistleblower that showed up, we're still have yet to get in the mainstream press. But that may change soon now. But until now, they blackballed us.
Well, now the important thing here, and Mohammed, I'm going to bring you up in a minute on this. What we saw over the last couple of years, Mohammed, is that the ETFs as well looked like they were double and triple selling their pot of gold. And I was watching and mentioned to you on several broadcasts, Mohammed, that their amount of gold in the fund had remained constant, and then 3 months later they had doubled the number of sales they had made, and yet their gold reserve had remained the same. And I said to myself, this is either going to be a mistake or they're messing up. I don't understand this. Well, come to find out from reports that I've dug up, they were actually selling way beyond the gold they've got. So this seems to be an industry-wide thing, and they're so there's so much hubris in this group, they don't really care very much whether you know it or not. What's your take on this, Mohammed?
Well, what I witnessed firsthand at the beginning of 2009, Darryl, was something which was really quite incredible in respect of the ETF fund holdings. I followed two of the largest ETF funds specializing in gold and bullion in the United States. And what they do in order to try and give this air of credibility, they have a spreadsheet you can download from their respective websites that have a list of all the gold bars that they're holding. And those gold bars, usually have some kind of an ID number and a location where they are. And I was watching as the gold price was pulling up really hard, beginning of 2009, late 2008, early 2009. And I was witnessing at the same time that the retail sales in India had totally collapsed. The jewelry business had fallen through as part of the wider economic collapse and financial collapse that we were looking at. So the jewelry business as a luxury item was one of the first things to go. The gold price had got so strong that the Indian market couldn't buy, and the idea was that consumption even was higher than ever on the physical market because of these ETFs, and the ETFs were publishing larger and larger holdings literally by the day. And then I went to the London Bullion Market Association's spreadsheets, which are downloadable for physical settlements on a daily basis, and the amount of quantity that these guys were claiming were appearing in the funds versus the amount that was actually being recorded as physically settled on the London Bullion Market Association were chalk and cheese. They were just miles apart. One day you might have 50 ounces and they were claiming that they just bought 10,000 ounces. There were these kinds of figures going on, and they just weren't being settled anywhere. And there's no way that they could have all been done private sales like you selling to me, Darryl, because this stuff has got certificates on it. And so the suspicion that we came to last year, and which I still believe to this day, is that these ETFs are actually holding gold leases on bars which have not physically changed ownership. They are just temporarily leasing it and claiming it temporarily as an asset. That's my take at the moment.
Yeah. Now, Bill, you go ahead, Bill. Do you have a comment on that, Bill?
Yeah, because in my testimony in front of the CFTC, part of it included the concentrated positions of J.P. Morgan Chase and HSBC in the gold and silver market. It's their percentage of what they're doing relative to those markets compared to what anyone else is doing other markets is just off the charts.
Yep.
And what's interesting in what you're saying is that HSB